Corney. Look out, it's on line.
And a very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us wherever you are around Australia for the next stage of the 12th World Basketball Championships, coming to us live from Hamilton and Toronto in Canada. Today we move into the quarter-final stage of the tournament, where the top 8 teams in the world play off to decide who will move on to the semi-finals. Now this is a round-robin stage, which of course means that a loss doesn't necessarily mean you are out of the competition. The 8 nations are split into 2 groups and they'll play each other over the next 3 days. Coming up first this morning, the matchup of the quarterfinals is between Croatia and China. That's our first match. That'll be followed at 11 o'clock this morning, Eastern Time, between Greece and the host nation, Canada. Joining us for our first match and hopefully for our second match as well, we bid a very warm welcome to Bob Turner, coach of the Sydney Kings. Bob, great to have you at SBS.
My pleasure to be here, Alan.
It must be a little bit different for you, a little bit more relaxing, can I say, sitting in front of a monitor without having to scream and rant and rave and run up and down the sidelines.
Well, without the pressures of wondering whether you're going to win or lose. But at the same time, I have the strong feeling that, you know, when Australia is playing, I really want to see Australia do well. And so far, so good. And this next round could be very interesting. What
were your thoughts on the Croatia-Australia clash?
Well, I thought Australia did a great job. You know, you think about 2 years ago, they played basically the same team and lost by 40 points. They've really taken a step up, and I think that the players from Australia now through the NBL and playing in front of 10,000, 15,000 people on a regular basis are not daunted by playing, you know, players like Kukoc and Raja and people like that. So now it's getting a lot more interesting to watch Australia go up and down because they look forward to playing. And I think this next round of games, especially against the Dream Team too, you'll see Australia really get out and play some ball.
Now, I know they don't play for the Sydney Kings, but the youngsters like Heel and Ronaldson, therefore, must be very inspiring for you as a coach.
Well, I think, you know, you look at where Australian basketball is going and where it is now, and it's just going from strength to strength. And people like Ronaldson and Heel, who are very young, look forward to these games and aren't daunted by playing some of the better players in the world. And I think Andrew Gaze and Mark Bradkey have kind of been there, done that on the fringe of playing at that level. And so again, it's not you know, a big deal for them to go out and play whoever in a world championship. So I think it's really saying a lot for where Australian basketball is going and where it is right now. And the future is even more exciting.
Good. Good to have you with us, Bob. Bob Turner, and Bob will be with us throughout our telecast this morning. Let's take a look now at how the 2 teams made it to this stage. This far with convincing win in all their matches in Group B and look in dangerous form. This Croatian team full of superstars and, as we've just mentioned, just a fraction too strong for Australia the other day. China, on the other hand, are the real surprise packet. This is the Croatian-China game. Croatia-Australia game, I'm sorry, of course, yeah. And, Bob, there wasn't much in this game until that little break at the end of the first half where the Croatians started to just get the upper hand.
Well, I think, you know, as I said, the Australians really stuck at it, and there was maybe 3 or 4 minutes of lapse time, and that was it, really, that allowed a team like Croatia with so many good players the open door, and they took advantage of it.
In the end, it was just a pretty convincing victory to Croatia, and of course Croatia we'll see in just a moment up against China. And the other thing, Bob, was just before we go on to this game, the amazing crowd support from the Croatians.
Well, it's amazing to see, and you know, I was unaware that there were so many people from Croatia in that area, but obviously they follow their teams and they do it extremely well.
This is the Spain-China game. This was an absolute thriller of a game, with Spain seemingly holding a fairly convincing lead at half-time, but China, to their credit, came back brilliantly in the second half and snatched a victory by 2. Having said that, Bob, it's probably difficult to see the Chinese doing the same thing against Croatia this morning.
Well, you know, you look at the Oz 94 with the Women's World Championships, and of course China won that, and they were behind in almost every game that they played. But then their game is so open court, and they just stay at it and shoot the 3-pointer, and when it starts to go down, you know, they're in any game. And of course, in this game, China and Spain, the same thing happened, where the shots started to go down for them, and they took advantage of really getting at Spain.
Indeed. That was an exciting game. It was, I think, was it yesterday morning? Most of these games have been running into each other for those who have had no sleep, but it was, I think, early yesterday morning. But a great win there to China, and you can see by their celebrations just how happy they were. So, how they got there, and Croatia, as we've told you, defeated Cuba. That was their opening match, 85-65. Then a very big victory over South Korea, 104-53. And then that epic clash with the Boomers, and Croatia home by 24 points. So Croatia into the quarterfinals this morning. How they got there, they played China. Well, China in overtime defeated Brazil 97-93, China by 4. They went down to the Dream Team 132-77, and then China, as we've mentioned, coming back in that very exciting clash to just defeat Spain by 2. So China through to the quarterfinals and in against Croatia. You're watching the 12th World Basketball Championships from the Maple Leaf Gardens. Most of the matches will move now to Toronto after having been in Hamilton. Bob, what's your thoughts on the gold medal? Certainly an American gold and maybe a Croatian silver, do you think?
Well, I think that's probably everybody's pick as to where the teams are going. I mean, it would be very, very difficult for anybody to really defeat the U.S., even though they've been very patchy at times. There's just so much talent there that at any time they can pick up the D, they can pick up their offense, and really make it difficult for other teams to score. And then, of course, Croatia has a number, 2 or 3 players who are currently playing in the NBA. So they're at a very high level as well. Everybody else is in that kind of mixed situation, and I think teams like Canada, the game today, Canada playing Greece, that's a big game for them. If they can get through that, and if Australia can get through their division, it could be a host nation playing Australia for the bronze.
We've got the pictures up at the moment from Maple Leaf Gardens, you can see on your screen, but unfortunately as yet our commentators Phil Lynch and Lindsay Gaze aren't quite ready, so Bob and I will just hold it from the studios in Sydney. Bob, the Boomers' best performance I think at the World Championships was a 5th back in 1982 in Colombia. Would they be looking positively now at a bronze medal, do you think, in the preparation?
I think if you look at their draw, they have Puerto Rico and Russia and the Dream Team. Now, the Dream Team is going to be a difficult one to get through, but when you look at the other 2 nations, I mean, Russia is now totally different than what they used to be. And of course, in '87-'88, they had 2 6-game test series against the Soviet Union side that won the gold medal in '88, and competed extremely well against that nation. And now, with Russia being the way they are, I think they have every chance of getting past them. And of course, Puerto Rico is a team like Cuba, like Brazil, like Spain, are nations that Australia has beaten. And they have to make sure they're playing at their level. But if they do, I mean, they're 2 very gettable games for Australia.
Talking of the disappointments, Bob, so far of these championships, I suppose that Spain would have to be one of the disappointing nations, would you think? Well,
I think Spain and Brazil would both be very upset. And of course, China beat one in overtime and the other one on the buzzer. If you looked at the footage between China and Spain when they played, of course, the Spanish players were hands in their heads and very distraught at letting one go. And I think Spain is a very big basketball nation. Brazil is a very big basketball nation, and the Brazilians. I think Brazilians beat the Chinese in the final of the World Championships for women. So that's how strong they are.
What are your thoughts? We've had a lot of viewer reaction back here in Australia from our telecast, these forced timeouts for television. From a viewer's point of view, do you share their concern that it may fragment the game somewhat?
Well, from a coaching point of view, we've been doing that for a number of years in the NBL, and in many ways, coaches look forward to those timeouts.
With the television-induced
timeouts.
Right.
And we only have a couple a game, but then the rest of them are what we want to call. But the game is such a game where the coach can control the flow of the game so well that it has its ups and downs. Of course, when you're winning, it's good. When you're losing, people are saying, "Why don't you call another one and fix it?" But at the same time, I think it's good for the coaches and the players because it's such a stop-start game that you have to keep that fine edge going. From a viewer point of view, sometimes it can be very difficult. And I think if you look at the NBA in America, where they have a multitude of timeouts, they have 20-second timeouts, and the last minute of a game can take anywhere up to 15, 20 minutes to play. That's boring, and I think it's something we have to look at.
Just getting back to this game, Bob, we're seeing the pictures of the Chinese team warming up and being introduced to the crowd. If you were the coach of the Chinese team, you would obviously have to try and tell your players not to be intimidated at all by your opposition.
Well, I think that's the key to playing any of the top teams like Dream Team or Croatia. But China, I think, has been there before. They've played a lot of big games. They've traveled a lot as a team. and as a nation, and I don't think they'd be daunted by playing this. They've had obviously 2 tough games in defeats over Brazil and Spain, both very tight ones, so they've proved they can come back. What they need to do tonight is to really shoot the ball well, which is a trademark of all the Asian nations. That they're outside shooting teams. They need to shoot the ball well, and they need to make sure they do a good job on people like Kukoc and Raja and the big fella in the middle. And if they can do that, well, then they'll be in the ball game.
And as far as Croatia, I suppose pressure on Croatia not only to win their games but also to win them all well.
Well, of course, their division now is they're top seed in their division, so they'd want to match what the U.S. is doing on the other side, and everybody's looking to a gold-silver playoff game between the two. So they want to make sure they win their division, and if they can do that, well, then obviously they're doing what they're supposed to do.
What do you think of this round-robin system? It seems to be a pretty fair way of determining 1, 2 and 3.
Well, you definitely find out who's the best, and it's like in the NBA or in the NBL, we have a best-of-3 or best-of-5 or best-of-7 series. You find out in the end. It's not just a one-off situation. It's really finding the best team, and I think in this situation where you have the 3 teams coming in, or the 4 teams, and you play everybody. Like I said with Australia, okay, the dream team might be a foregone conclusion, but you play the Russians and the Puerto Ricans, and if you get through, well then, you deserve it.
Sure. Our guest this morning in our Sydney studios is Bob Turner, coach of the Sydney Kings, and he'll be our guest both for this game and for the Greece-Canada game coming up later on. Bob, as a showpiece of the, well, almost a showpiece of the NBA, these championships, Toronto with a team coming in at the end or the new season, how do you think the Toronto team will fit into the concept?
Well, I think Canada will embrace the NBA. They've been, very, very strong supporters of the game throughout, the whole nation. And now that they finally get a team into the NBA, I think it's like with the Toronto Blue Jays, who won the World Series last year. It was just great for the country. And Isaiah Thomas, the ex-Detroit Piston, is now their new general manager. I'm sure, he's going to bring a wealth of knowledge and experience into the organization. That's probably why they have him there. And it'll be good to see.
Talking just briefly before we go to our commentators again, Bob, of this massive new contract that Kukoc has signed. That would be obviously problems with the salary. Do they have things like salary caps over there as well, like we do here? Yeah,
they have salary caps. Theirs has a few more zeros to it than ours.
Yeah.
I think their salary cap is something like 15 or 16 million, and that's not counting for all the other aspects of getting around the salary cap. And Kukoc, I think, has signed a very good deal. Of course, he was making very good money when he played in Italy. He was making $2 or $3 million a year there. So money's never been a problem to Tony.
You obviously can spend it well. What does this, Bob? Does this sort of create any friction between a player like him and the rest of the team, knowing that one particular player is just getting so much money?
Well, the majority of them are all on that kind of money. I mean, I think the average salary now is over $1 million for every player in the NBA. And it just makes it very interesting. I think what the difficulty is with the coaches, who, coaches make maybe $500,000 a year, and you're coaching players who are making 4 and 5, and if things aren't going well, the player tends to go to the administration and says, well, who do you want, me or him? And it makes it very difficult for that coach to try and tie in those 12 players, keep everybody happy. And that's probably the biggest thing to do, as well as straight out coach the team.
Yeah. Well, Bob, these are games, of course, the showpiece of basketball around the world. You're one of the highest-profile coaches in Australia. How do you think the game is progressing here in this country now?
Well, I think that the way basketball, I've been here 20 years in the country now, and it's like night and day to when I first arrived to what it is now, obviously. And the game is progressing at a great level. We have more and more kids playing the game. The NBL is giving it the focus. The NWBL is giving the focus for the women. Oz 94 was fantastic for the country in showing that our women are as good as well as the men are competing in the top 10 nations in the world out of something like 193 countries that play the game. So, we're very good internationally. We're very good now domestically. And with the grassroots development that is going on, it only speaks well for where the game is going.
Sure. Bob Turner is our special guest in Sydney. We're just having just a few problems getting through to our commentators, but of course, as you can see, the game hasn't started yet, and we'll be there in just a moment at the Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto for our first quarter-final match on SBS television around Australia this morning. That's the game, of course, between Croatia and China. Bob, just briefly, maybe we could have a touch of a look at the Greece-Canada game, which is our second quarter-final this morning. We haven't seen, I don't think yet, any vision of the Canadians playing, but from all reports and looking at the results, they have been impressive.
Well, of course, they're the host nation, and you always have a little bit more zip in your tank when you have your fans and your country right there on the spot. And I think when you looked at the Australian women in Oz '94, it was basically the same. So it's going to be good for Canada. As I said, this is a big game to beat Greece. If they can beat Greece, then they're looking good for a top 4 spot themselves. And I think they're aware of that. They're going to come into the game with guns blazing and give Greece everything they have.
Bob Turner, and now we say good morning to Phil and Lindsay in Toronto. Good morning.
Neither have I.
Well, here we are in Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto for this first game of the second round, and it's China up against Croatia. And the most surprising thing is there are very few people here in this game. There's Toni Kukoc, the Croatian star. This is a game where Croatia is expected to win and win comfortably. China was one of those teams that came through that nobody expected. They just came from the clouds with a shock win over Spain in the first round. And coach of the Chinese team there, well, I just wonder what he might be expecting in this one. Lindsay, it's going to be a tough one for them.
Well, you've always got to be cautious about when you get to the quarter-final rounds, that obviously they're all very good teams. But I'm sure that the Croatians will be confident about winning this one. And I can also assure you that of all of the fans that are here, 90% of them will be supporting Croatia.
Well, they got off to a pretty good start because Mirisic scoring the first one. And in fact, I don't think Mirisic even hit the court the other night against Australia, but the jumper going off from the baseline and huge frames on the board to pull that one down. And it's Mirisic who comes away with the ball again. So Alanovic in the back court. Mirisic joins him now, and Kukoc on the wing. But Toni Kukoc takes it to the paint and draws the foul and scores. And that's the problem that China is going to face all night. The big man Tao Shan tried to take him, and here's Toni Kukoc. Tao Shan comes across to help. All he can do is foul him and send him to the free throw line. So a 3-point play to begin with from Toni Kukoc. Well, 3-time European Player of the Year and now playing with the Chicago Bulls.
Well, that's a dangerous sign for China, with Shan getting a foul very early in the game. In the match that they won against Spain, he got into foul trouble. In fact, he fouled out with about 7 or 8 minutes to go, and we thought that would be the end of China, but they survived. But he's the only genuine big man in the team. Of course, the Croatians have got 3 giants in the front line.
Sun found behind to Tao Shan. Along the baseline they go to Woe, and Adaljan, the guard handling the ball, taking some time off the clock. Didn't get that ball, did get it away in time. I think the referee put the 3-point signal went up, but the buzzer went off, and it will be Croatia to take the ball from the back court. And that's about the only time that you'll see Adaljan shoot the ball. He averages about 1 shot a game and will only shoot it if he finds it in his hands when the 30-second clock is winding down. So this gives the Croatians a chance to go back into offense again. And big form of Dino Raja takes it at the hoop and scores. And they've got really nothing to go against that. So Raja scoring for Croatia, a 7-0 lead early in the game, and the trend has already been set. Tao Shan with a handoff there to Sun. In the corner they go to Zheng Wo. Down along the baseline, the reverse layup that goes down from Naikin Wo. Now here's a scorer, and he will have to carry a big load here tonight. First points for China, and Kukoc takes it to the hoop. They dragged it off the hole, but it falls again inside that pass that was meant for Kukoc. There's a big hand in the way. And low they go to Dino Raja again. They fouled him, and we're going to see a bit of this with the foul going against Naikin Wo. And Dino Raja will step to the free throw line again for a 3-point play. This is a bit of a replay of what we saw earlier. Underneath Raja, just too big a frame.
Well, on the score sheet it'll say Dino Raja 2 points, but that really should be shared with Toni Kukoc, who's noted for his tremendous passing ability, and not only his passing ability but his vision to see that option.
The sort of pass that he threw too was a little left-handed shovel pass. Of course, he is a lefty, but the kind of pass that you wouldn't encourage kids to pass, but he's been doing it for a few years now, and he can do it with pinpoint accuracy. Sun was fouled as he tried to drive the baseline. It'll be a ball out of bounds. And Mirsic, 15, is the first one to incur a foul for Croatia, but his team is up by 10 points to 2, and we've only been playing for 2.5 minutes. Now Naikin Wo, Adiljan. See if they take some time off the clock again. Tao Shan looks at that front line of the Croatians and decided against it. Now he's looking to back in. Adiljan, there's an open shot for him and he will not take it. Sun along the baseline, dumped it to the baseline man, but they do get the ball back and back into the hands of Jun Sun again. Adiljan launches a three. Well, he's proved me wrong already. He's taken his second shot. We've only been playing just over 3 minutes. So
well, that was just trying to
he's
keep
got a feel for it out there.
Well, he was just trying to keep the defense honest. He's got to take some shots, and it is significant there that Vrankovic was really not respecting Zhang as he's not there. And with Adiljan, they're content not to guard him either. And clearly that puts a lot more pressure on the other players.
So Vrankovic it is who pulls the ball down off the boards, sends them away, and Dino Raja, 6'11", and runs the break as well as anybody. I know the Australians were very concerned, talking to them at practice today, that the amount of times that Dino Raja got off on the break against them, well, he did it then against China, and I figure he'll do it against some more teams as well.
And that usually only comes from an offensive error or a shot that's taken without the strong rebounding contest. So if you allow the Croatians to do that, they're going to score heavily.
Adiljan, another three-pointer, and left that one way short, so he's none of 3.
I think it won't be too long before we see Guingong Wu coming in, number 10, the other guard. It's strange. China usually starts with Adiljan. He plays for 5 or 6 minutes, and then they make the replacement.
Well, it's the dunk from Vrankovic, and he was fouled again. And he must be a little bit psychic, Lindsay Gaze, because the Chinese bench hadn't moved, as you were saying that. And now the coach, just after you spoke, you got some sort of line to the bench, because he went down to Chinglong Wo and said, time to come in. So we've got time out here, 4 minutes gone in the ball game, and Croatia with a 10-point lead. And the coach is following your advice. So when we see the players come back onto the court, I'm sure Chinglong Wo will be taking out Adiljan to try and do something about. He's really got to try and reverse a trend here, hasn't he?
Well, there's a problem for China in that they have very few targets to the offense close to the basket. Shan is normally a strong target for them, but he's being overmatched with the double teaming of the Croatians, and someone else has to take up the slack. There's been opportunities on the perimeter, but Adiljan is not capable of doing that, and now Wo is the one who's going to be given that mission. It's not only their offense that has to be picked up, but they've got to be able to prevent the transition basket for the Croatians, who have scored very easy baskets each time down the floor. The China will have to be patient. They'll have to score a high percentage, and whenever they can maintain that, they've got a better chance of preventing the transition game for Croatia.
Well, there's the situation. 12 points to 2 after 4 minutes of the game, and the Chinese huddle. And they're speaking with a little bit of vehemence out there, trying to organise this team before they come back in. And they've really got some problems early in the game. The problem, of course, is they don't have the cattle to put on the floor and handle the physical presence of this Croatian team. And there's some of the Croatian crowd, and they're not here in very big numbers today. We're just sort of wondering why this game is playing in the very early evening. Well, it is almost 7 o'clock in Toronto in the evening on a Monday evening. It is a work day, so maybe the Croatians who've been coming out in here in their numbers have looked at this game and said it's up against China, a game out we think our team might win comfortably, and they've opted to save their dollars for a little later in the week, Lindsay.
Well, perhaps it's another explanation that the fans that we've seen have been at Hamilton, and maybe there's a factor there that most of the Croatian population is accommodated down there and have decided not to make the trip up tonight and waiting until tomorrow night.
Three-point shot goes up from way outside, and it's come from Naikeen Wo, and he can really drill the three-pointer, but he's going to have to drill some in this game. As again, the Croatians go inside, and why shouldn't they? A miss there from Kukoc, and a foul again. I think it's against Tao Shan again. Adiljan puts his hand up, but yes, it is against Adiljan. I thought it might have been against Tao Shan, but here's the battle on the boards.
Well,
I'm not sure what
made a mistake there, strange enough, although he drew the foul. And for the big guys, and this man knows what the game's all about, of course, when you get the rebound there, technically you're supposed to keep the ball above your head or around shoulder height. As soon as he brought it down to his knees, well, that was an invitation for the Chinese players, Adiljan, to swipe at it, and he might have been a little bit lucky to get a foul out of that.
So at the free throw line, Stoyan Vrankovic again, and not making it off the stripe that time, but his team is leading by the 10 points, 15 points to 5. Naikeen Wo out there who hit the last three-pointer. This is Sun. Adiljan again looked at it, faked the shot in the right corner. It's Ho, and Ho hits from the right-hand side. So Weedong Ho makes the three and reduces the margin to 7.
Well, he's the leading scorer on the Chinese team, and he's a player that I've mentioned before when we've seen him. I like the way he plays. He's patient. He's got good touch from the outside, and he has athletic ability. He can jump as well, but he's just a lightweight, and it'll be a case of whether he can sustain the effort against the heavier and more physical Croatians.
So that time, Sun with the foul and has put Mirisic at the free throw line. Lindsay, one of the ways the Chinese can get into this lead a little bit is they can keep Croatia to 2 at this end and just keep hitting 3 at the other. That gets you back 1 point at a time.
Yes, it might take a while to do that because the Croatians can hit from the outside as well. They're quite capable of making the 3. That Svetocan hasn't come into a Komicic, and who buried, I think, 7 of 8 against the Australians from out that range.
Well, Kukoc momentarily grabbed the pass. Here's another 3 going up and setting his feet well underneath him. Weedong Ho makes 2 in a row. So the ball game is a 5-point one now. 16 playing 11, and China starting to get the formula right. But look for the Croatian team to adjust next time down the floor. They're going to have to start to get to these 3-point shooters. Inside they go again. Kukoc for 2 down the middle. That time they did the right thing and not foul him. The foul on Kukoc at the other end. So one of the problems for China is, as well as giving up the 2, they've been fouling as well and offering the 3-point play. But an indication there of Kukoc coming out to his man. We'll see that foul again. We saw it fairly quickly there as the tape machine got away on us a little bit. Sun. That man Wo again, and Sun fires one up there, but all it is a rebound for Vrankovic. Off to the races again is Dino Raja. Down the middle this time. And Raja gets away on the fast break after Vrankovic had rebounded at the other end. And that is a situation that the Croatians find themselves in so often. Vrankovic dragging the ball down off the boards, and Raja getting off at the other end. Now they're getting up to the perimeter players. A little bit more urgency. And fake of a shot, and down it goes, this time from Chinglong Wo, who's come into the quarterback position. And this also gives them an extra 3-point shooter out there, Lindsay.
Well, he can make that shot where Adiljan can't. And the other thing is that he wants to take it. He has to make a high percentage because I think the Croatians have already shown how effective they are in the transition. At least half of their points have come from the transition basket already. And they're just as effective in the half-court game.
Raja with the short-range jumper hits another 2, and Dino Raja is up to 11 points, the first player into double figures. But interestingly, the way this game is being played, Croatia is yet to take a 3-point shot. They haven't had to because they've gotten their points in the paint, whereas the Chinese have taken 7. That's the 8th one. They've made 4 of 8.
He just had to push that one up a little bit quickly. When he gets his feet set, He's a strong and a reliable shooter from that range. But just a little bit anxious on that one. Pushed it up a little bit quickly, and it rimmed out.
Now, speaking of three-point shots from Croatia, here's a chance now with Komosets coming into the game and taking out Veljko Mirsic. So Komosets will fire the three. Alanovic is capable as well. It's Alanovic on the drive now, but all he could do is turn the ball over to Wee Dong Ho. Ho waiting for teammates, and there's a three-point shot opened up immediately for him. He's got a sweet shot, hasn't he?
Well, once he gets his feet set and gets a look at it, he's very reliable, and that's a good option for China. And if they can keep making those and reduce the transition basket in a half-court game, it's a reasonable contest.
The 2-3 zone from China. See if they can shoot from outside of it. Komosets with the drive, and it falls for Alanovic. Kukoc looking it across, and now finds Komosets on the other side. Makes the two. And it's 24 playing 17. But this three-point game with the Chinese keeping them in it. Down the middle they go, and the drive that time from Wee Dong Ho. The defense really opened up for him. That's what will happen with the three-point shooting.
Well, I think the Croatians were a little bit surprised that they took the early shot there, that they would normally expect China to make 4 or 5 passes before they find the open man. That time he went straight in.
First three-point shot from Croatia, and it fits. Arjan Alanovic. And at the other end again, it's that man Wee Dong Ho. He's having one heck of a game out there. 16 points to him. He's hit 4 of 5 from outside the three-point line. 27 plays 21. So standing around the perimeter, Komosets has absolutely no movement from this Croatian offense at the moment. Now they run some time off the clock. They've got it down to 6 seconds to go. Raja dumps on the inside, and lucky there because it fell for Brankovic. And the Chinese could find themselves fairly unfortunate on that play.
Well, it looked like the Croatians there. It was the lull before the storm for China. They were very patient. They knew precisely what they were doing. A little three-man game inside the zone. And I'm also not too sure how long China can stay in this zone. They tried a zone defense against Spain, got 15 points down by half-time, and then they went into man-to-man and reversed the result. China started with a man-to-man. They're now having a look at the zone. But the Croatians at least are in very good control. They can pick them off with their big boys as they move around on the inside. And I'm not too sure what advice I can give China now. They really have to depend heavily on their high percentage shooting to stay with them.
Well, they really have to stay with the zone, though, don't they? I mean, it does slow the Croatians up a little.
Well, if they're going to stay in the zone, they have to match up a little bit better. They're playing the zone defense very much on occupying areas on the floor rather than being alert to the man. And if they allow the penetration pass to the man filling the gap, well, then the Croatian size takes over. They keep the ball above their head, dump it down to their teammate on the inside. It's too difficult for China to cover that. They really need to put more pressure on the ball, then try and match up with the players on the inside to force Croatia to play a perimeter game. They have the players, of course, that can make it from out there, but it's the percentage game that I think that they'd have a better percentage chance if they can keep Croatia to the perimeter rather than allow them to power inside as often as they have.
Speaking of powering inside, we're watching the Phoenix Suns guerrilla at the moment, and this might be a clue to the Chinese if perhaps when he goes off the court at the end of the timeout, if he leaves that mini tramp there, particularly not at this end though, because that's the end of the court that the Croatians are playing offense at the moment. If they could put it up at the other end and let the Chinese go off the mini tramp, although I mentioned it probably at the start of the game that this Chinese team is not small. They have an average height of 6'6", and if they could use the same sort of extra assistance that they get from that mini tramp there, they're in with a chance. But with people like that coming back to the floor, this man, Tony Kukoc, they do have some problems because he has all the moves and he's listed at 6 feet 10 inches and handles the ball in the back court. So they really don't have anyone to match him. And a steal there from Komosets sends Kukoc away, straight to the hoop. Can't make the layup, but it's Komosets with the rebound. And that is a real problem. China cannot afford to make turnovers like that. They have to get a shot off each time down the floor, hopefully a three-pointer.
We can almost guarantee Croatia will punish you on a play like that they score a remarkably high percentage any time they're off in the transition game.
Just a little bit more effort into the Croatian defence at the moment. They're coming right out on them. It looked like there was a foul there that probably the Chinese were a little unfortunate. Away comes Raja again and slams it down the middle. Gets the foul as well. He'll go to the free throw line. We saw the big chest pump there. Have a look at it. They get the ball at the other end. Dino Raja takes off. You saw him take off on the right-hand side there. They found him with the bounce pass. He was fouled as well. So Dino Raja steps up. He has 13 points already. Make it 14. And Croatia gets that lead out to 13 when just a minute ago the Chinese thought they were in there with some sort of a hint of a chance. They got it back to 6 points and the Croatians put them away again. Tao Shan. Now he can't shoot over the top of people like Brankovic. Away they go again. Kukot's extra step as well.
Just a moment.
Kovaset's got an extra step, but the referee didn't bother to call it and gave them the fast break.
I think the Japanese referee there, who was due to make that call, was just as interested in being a spectator on that one. He was waiting for the spectacular play and just let them play.
Sun went down the middle, had to put too much arch on the shot to give away some accuracy. Raja again pulls it up, not this time for Dino. And we got a 4-on-4 play with 2 players left at the other end of the court. That did not fall, so Sun's drive to the basket drew a foul out of Kovaset's. Watch Kukot on this play. Little left-handed scooper and the extra step. You saw it in there from Kovaset's.
Well, I counted 4.
2 extra steps will make it. So Sun at the free throw line to shoot a pair. 36 points to 21. 6 team fouls against China. 4 against Croatia. Chance for the Chinese to get their breath back. Been taken up and down the floor a couple of times for Zheng Wo to come in for China. That's him, number 5, as they try and get some fresh horses out there, and Sun goes out. So a 13-point ball game. Still in the backcourt for Croatia. They haven't bothered to change that, but they go underneath the Raja. It gets some sort of an indication the way the Croatians are attacking this, Lindsay. They've only made the 1 sub with Kovaset's coming in from Mirisic.
Yes, well, I think that they're preparing their team, and they don't substitute very frequently under any circumstances. And in this case, they are treating China with respect because regardless, they must win. This is not a game that they can take lightly. And I think that Spain made the mistake of having a 15-point lead at half-time and taking it for granted that they can go on from there.
Lindsay, there's that man again, Wei Dong Ho. That was a shot under some pressure from outside the 3-point circle as well. And he is putting on a 3-point shooting exhibition out there. He is 5 of 6 from outside the circle. It doesn't get any better than that. Kovaset's, he can hit as well, especially when they don't go to him, allowing an uncontested 3-pointer.
Look, China's made a little variation of their zone defense in playing a 1-3-1, and the fundamental rule of a 1-3-1 defense is you've got to get to the man on the wing. They're a little bit confused about choices there as whether to cover the inside of the man with the ball.
There he goes again.
Mistake. He's a good one.
Wei Dong Ho. An immaculate shooting exhibition. I'll keep you in touch with it at 6 of 7. And he's kept China in this game all of his own. 18 points from outside the circle, and they've only scored 29. But now the Croatians open up from outside, and Vladan Alanovic. They've got Alanovic and Kovaset's who'll take the 3. We haven't seen Kukot shoot the 3 yet. He shoots plenty for the Bulls.
Oh, I'm not too sure about that. I think that...
particularly in the playoffs, well, I mean, he fired some up there.
Well, when it becomes necessary, he'd rather make the pass first, and then after that, if people are covered, he's prepared to take it, and he can make it. But his first priority is usually always to find the open man and get it to them. If that's covered and it comes back out to him, well, then he can make the play himself.
Watching Raja again inside on replay, and timeout called once again here. 44 plays 29, so between the two timeouts, Croatia has taken it out by 15 when it was down to about 7 at the last timeout. So the last period of play has been very good for Croatia. But how about this shooting exhibition from the three-pointer? Number 8 for China, Wei Dong-ho. Lindsay, you spotted him early in the tournament and took a liking to him, but you've got to like what he's doing here tonight.
Well, I think he's the man that's keeping China into the game with his accuracy and his athleticism. He's a very quick player. It might seem as though the Croatians should be able to cover him and put a little bit more pressure on him. But he moves around the floor well, and the China are setting good screens from him. Once he gets open and gets his feet set, well, then he's a reliable shooter. So I think China has done well in their scoring. They just have to find some way of subduing Croatia, because they're scoring better with the occasional transition basket, with their efficiency in the half-court game. And as I said, I'm not too sure about this zone defense, because what they're doing, they're occupying positions, but they're really not putting pressure on the ball. And Croatia can make the pass quite satisfactorily, and then they make their choice. And all of the Croatians are very, very effective scorers. So I think unless they put a little bit more pressure on the ball and be selective about the way they try to deny the pass from the inside, Croatia will outscore them.
I think we might see some changes in the lineup very shortly for the Croatians, getting some other players ready. Players that we haven't seen a lot of during the tournament, and they will gradually feed them in. We're going to see Ivica Zuric come into the game. He'll be wearing number 9. That's Kukoc with 7 assists in the first half. So he's on his way to a very good statistical game. Shaquille O'Neal in the stands. Now, that's interesting that the Dream Team is here. Having a look at Croatia, because they're certainly going to meet them a little later in the tournament.
Well, I'm not so sure about certain. It's a very, very high probability in the way that the...
I'd like to put money on it.
Fair enough.
Komasets from outside the three-point circle, and Arijan Komasets, who's just a pure sweet shooter. He can do a lot of other things very well as that, but gee, he looks great when he's outside the three-point line. China try and open them up, and we've got a push against Komasets as he tried to get through a screener there. Yudong Liu set a pretty good screen, and Komasets, in his eagerness to get to the outside shooter, couldn't quite get there. And off the bench for Croatia is Danko Sveticanin, one of the veterans, and he takes out Vladan Alanovic. Dumping on the inside, there's his trouble, but he drew a foul. They had the defensive man in the air, so Naikin Wo will go to the free throw line to shoot a pair. And Raja's fouled. It's 1 foul for Raja. It's the 6th team foul for Croatia. China have 7. So there's the situation off the free throw line. An indication of the way the game's being played that China has only been there once before. They've hit 2 of 2, but of course, in that early part of the game, particularly while China played man-to-man, the Croatians stuck the ball inside and drew the fouls. So 4 of 4 off the stripe, and now China shows a different set. They come down the floor and put some pressure on defense. This very well-drilled Croatian team breaks it up fairly readily, and they foul Dino Raja. It doesn't matter how hard they hit him, Lindsay, he will make the 2.
And he didn't move. They hit him, but he just simply didn't move.
Have a look at it. Again, it's Kukoc dumping it on the inside. That time it came via someone else. Sveticanin's pass. It went to Dino Raja. He was banged from all directions, and he's having a pretty nice first half with 18 points and 4 rebounds.
And he's making some Sean Kemp type expressions after the basket as well. Kemp is known to do a little bit of air punching and chest beating and so forth after a dunk or a good play. Dino Raja seems to be following the same trend.
Well, short with the jumper there. Offensive rebound goes to Adaljan, who's probably the smallest man in the tournament, even though he is 5'11". Doesn't look it out there running around amongst those people. Past these people in the street, people like Adaljan, he'd look like a fairly normal sort of person, but out here he looks an absolute midget. That time was Naikeen Woe on the turnaround under plenty of pressure. Hit the short-range jumper off the baseline, and it's a 15-point game. Off the baseline shine and a slam dunk from Kukoc Adiljan outside the three-point line with a penetration to make some space. Naikeen Woe off the baseline and hits a two. So a little trading baskets here, and again China comes up the floor on defense, but they can't do too much about it. Raja down the middle, dumps off there, and Komaset's all just inside the half-court line. Kukoc. That time from outside, it's Ivica Zuric with his first shot. So we haven't seen Zuric in the tournament so far, but he's shown us he can stick the three.
He shot that like a free throw.
Like he's shot plenty of them. Adiljan having a little play here.
He's not going anywhere.
He's being met there by Svetichanin. Along the baseline, they open up the three-point shooter from the other wing. Not that time for Naikeen Woe, and a foul in the backcourt will go against Adiljan, trying to put just a little bit too much pressure on, and that will see Croatia walk to the other end for the 1-and-1 with China over the limit. We've got 3 minutes and 51 seconds remaining in the first half, and that 18-point bulge in the score. And looking through some of the scorers, Dino Raja has 18 for Croatia. Komasets, who came off the bench, already has 11. He's 5 of 5 from the field, so he's having a pretty nice start to the game. But Weidong Ho, number 8 for China, with 22 points as the high scorer, and he's put on an excellent shooting exhibition from outside the three-point line. He's hit 6 of 8 from out there. Pretty good in anyone's language.
This is a very important period for China, believe it or not, with 4 minutes to play, 3:51 to play. They've tried several different methods of defense, and with 18-point margin, the next few minutes will be absolutely deadly for them, because they really need to try to have a similar pattern as what happened in Spain. They want to try to get this margin back to about 14 or 15 by half-time, which gives them some chance of a contest in the second half. If Croatia make the next couple of baskets and blow it out beyond 20-24 by half-time, then China's prospects are virtually nil. So the next 3 or 4 minutes for China will be critical for them to stay in the game. They need to consolidate their defense, but more importantly, make sure every part of their offense works. Each time down the floor, they have to be selective, and they have to work on a high percentage. Otherwise, Croatia can blow the game out by half-time.
Well, you saw those field goal shooting percentages, 78 against 46, and that's indicative of the scoreline at the moment. 22 of 35 points. What a game he's having. 14 of 18 from the field. Well, that is just tremendous shooting. I'm not sure about the 14 of 18 stat. According to my stats, he's only put up 10 shots. I think they've added a few together there. He's actually 8 of 10 from the field.
Well, 14 of 18 equals 28 points.
Yeah, so it's a few too many. I think the computer's got that a little bit wrong. But Zuric at the free throw line. He's come off the bench and shown us he can certainly play. And Naikeen Woe grabbing the rebound to send Adiljan away again. Yudong Liu trying to set some screens out there and loosen up some players, but they're taking some time off the clock again. This is the way Brazil approached Team USA. Oh, that was a nice play, but just wouldn't quite come off. And that is a miss for Weidong Ho. Won't look good on his stats. Inside they go to Svetichanin down the middle, and Danko Svetichanin gets his first points of the ball game. So the clock winds down towards 3 minutes to go, and their scoreline mounting for Croatia, 56 against 35. They're going to rack up some big numbers at the end of this game as Svetichanin led it behind for Kukoc, but he made a poor pass, gave the ball up. Didn't get the ball away quickly enough. As Adiljan can he score? He has. I thought they'd made a mess of that for a moment.
Well, he never saw the player down the floor who hadn't come back on defense yet. It would have been an easy basket, but they made it more difficult.
Adeljan gets his first points of the basketball game. He's had those 3 long bombs from outside, but that time he gets a layup. Kukoc dumps it into the corner to Svetichanin. Oh, what a pass from Kukoc to find Dino Raja outside. That thing went like a rocket. I mean, you have to be a pretty good player just to catch that.
Well, they call that like a frozen rope. It just threads the pass there. There's no hesitation, right on the button, and makes an easy play out of something that really, for most people, would be very difficult.
We've got a foul here on the defense. Well, have a look at that pass again. I hope they slow it up for us. And that is in slow motion, would you believe? And I had trouble seeing that. See the flash bulbs go off when Raja went up for the dunk. There it is again. That's a better look at it.
And from that angle, you can see that there was simply no margin in that. Defensive player on the weak side wing there had a chance of getting a hand in the lane if that pass had just been any slower or any less well-directed.
Talk about players having a hot hand. Dino Raja's hands would be burning just trying to catch that thing, but he made the 2. 58-37, and Raja is up to 20 points. Adeljan in the backcourt trying to get these people organised out there. The clock comes down to 10 seconds left on the shot clock, and we've got another foul called. So this is a long offense, this one. 2 fouls called on it already. And the foul goes against Vika Zuric. And this will put China at the free throw line. That puts Croatia over the limit. So stepping up to shoot the free throws is the man who scored all the points. No, in fact, it's not. It's Naikeen Wo. They look very alike. We're a long way back in the stands here. And Naikeen Wo is having a pretty nice game himself. Scores off the free throw line, and China is perfect off the stripe. They've made 6 of 6. So around about the 1.5-minute mark out from half-time. And Kukoc goes again to Raja. That was a different pass. Well, that time he just went straight over the top. And the smile from Dino Raja to go up to acknowledge the assist from Tony Kukoc. And haven't they combined for some points?
Well, it's...
There's that pass again. We saw the first one that went like a rocket. That one had some elevation on it, and there's no Chinese player could get near that. But he had a 6'11" target underneath the basket, and the 2 NBA stars combined for 3 more points.
And it's not too surprising that they do that, you know. Although they're playing on different teams now, they've grown up together and played on the great Yugoplastica teams that have won European championships. They understand each other so well. It's a wonderful combination.
So Raja drags it off the boards to send Kukoc away. Raja again, but they weren't able to get the shovel pass inside. And Ivica Zuric had a little trouble handling it, giving the ball back to China. And Adeljan again to the hole. He went to the well again. Have a look at this. Assist to the other end of the floor. Can he score off it? No, he tries to dump underneath to Zuric. So that pass came from Kukoc at the other end. The game's starting to hot up a little bit here. 52
seconds to go, and I think China needs 2 baskets to get their quota.
What did you have down as their quota?
16. 15 or 16 at half-time would be acceptable.
Well, there's a 20-point margin right now. We've got another foul. We've got an offensive foul, and that one has gone against Naikeen Wo. We'll have a look at it. Have a look at the elbow from Naikeen Wo as he lines up there and just got the elbow in on Kukoc as he came out to play some defense. Offensive foul, so no free throw shooting, no 1-on-1 on that one. As Kukoc looks on the outside to Svetichanin, 2-man game with him.
We're going to run the clock down this time.
So the clock comes down to, there's the clock in the left-hand corner of your screen. That's the shot clock. And that one has come off the hands of Wee Dong Ho. So they'll have 3 seconds left on the shot clock when they inbound the ball. China will do well to keep them out here. Svetichanin pump fake with the 3. Can't hit the 2. And China has saved the situation there. They had no time to score themselves. So at half-time here in this final 8th game between China and Croatia, there's the scoreline. Croatia 61, playing China 41. The high scorers, Dino Raja 23 for Croatia, 11 points to Kovacic. And for China, it's Weidong Ho, 22 points on 8 of 11 shooting, and he's got 6 of those from outside the three-point line. Well, watch that pass in there from Kukoc to Dino Raja. So there's the situation here at halftime. Croatia 61, leading China 41.
Welcome back to SBS Television around Australia. You're watching the Men's Basketball Championships, the world titles from Canada, live and exclusive. And I'm joined again in the studio by the coach of the Sydney Kings, Bob Turner. Bob, your thoughts as we maybe go through some of those highlights, roll the tape maybe on those highlights of the first half. Croatia by 20. Well,
I think, you know, Toni Kukoc has really stepped up to show that he's a class player. I think Andrew Vlahov did a great job against Tony in the game 2 days ago. And he's probably a little bit cranky that he got showed up. So he's come out. I think he's had 9 assists. He's had some great passes to his big men. And Dino Raja is really taken full advantage of it. He's got something like 18 points, and most of them off Toni Kukoc's assists. You see there the penetration. He's just a difficult guy to guard because he can hit the outside shot. He's a great penetrator. He's 6'10", and really the key to this game is sheer size. I mean, China just can't contend with that kind of power around the basket, and that's really Croatia's forte.
Would China be happy with their performance at half-time?
Well, speaking with Lindsay Gage just a couple minutes ago from Toronto, I mean, this is the first time China's ever made the top 8, and so they'd be very excited. They had those 2 tight games. I think really they're going to try and do as best they can. What's his Weidong Ho,
yeah, Weidong Ho
has really lit up the outside, as you see there. I mean, that's really been the key to them staying in touch at all. And of course, when you shoot the outside shot, you get penetration like that, which China can take advantage of, because all of a sudden the defense has to really contend with outside players. But just that on a regular basis is, I mean, the game of basketball is won or lost by what you do in the paint, and that's the key area. And if you can score in there consistently, well, then you're going to win games.
And as a coach, it would be very satisfying having the crowd base behind you like the Croatians obviously have again today.
Well, I think as you see that great drive by Raja, you know, he's 7'2" and you know, can really run the floor and play, or 7'1", I think it is. But I think, you know, knowing that the crowd is behind you, it's almost like you know, they're saying, well, are we in Canada or are we back home?
Sure.
But, they also have just sheer class and sheer talent. I mean, all these players are playing either in the NBA or over in Europe, making big money and playing very high-class basketball. Again, you know, sheer power of Kukoc and Raja and those type of players inside.
Do you give them any chance at all of beating the Americans when they clash, if they clash, or they will clash?
Well, I think it'll be a great game. I think that, you know, Kukoc will definitely step up. He has fond memories 2 years ago of playing in the Olympics when Pippen and Jordan wanted to do a great job of defending him. I think Kukoc is a lot further down the track now, and probably knowing that he's got $26 million in his pocket makes him feel a little bit more confident about his game.
Bob Turner from the Sydney Kings, coach of the Sydney Kings, is our guest in our Sydney studios, and we'll be back after this break. Our coverage of the Men's World Basketball Championships. Half-time in our first quarter-final this morning, and Croatia by 20. Croatia 61 and China 41. We have a progress in another match being played at the same time. This match is between Cuba and Brazil, and Cuba leading Brazil 25. I just didn't get that score for Brazil. If you can, 25-20, Cuba over Brazil. That, of course, is a playoff between 9th and 16th. Our guest in the studio in Sydney is Bob Turner, coach of the Sydney Kings. And Bob, we've spoken about Croatia. Maybe we can just have a few words about the Australian team as they lead up to their clash tomorrow with the American Dream Team. That game, of course, on your screens at 11 a.m. tomorrow. That should be a beauty, 11 a.m. What approach would Barry Barnes take, do you think, to this? Just treat it as another game?
I think so. I think listening to the comments by most of the players, it's really a situation where they're kind of excited to play the game. And I look back to 2 years ago when they had the controversy with Magic Johnson and the Phil Smythes and Ray Borners, which was international news about AIDS and so forth. I think if Australia had played America back then, it would have been a very negative Australian side that went into the game. 2 years down the track, I think looking at the Australian players, and I said this a couple of weeks ago, that I think if Australia played America, you'd have people like Shane Hill, Tony Ronaldson, Mark Bradkey, Andrew Gaze, those players in particular who are kind of cocky enough and confident enough in their ability to say, hey, this is fun, this is what it's all about, and would look forward to the game. And I think that those 4 players in particular will go into the game saying, hey, this is what it's all about. And the rest of the guys will probably get those vibes and say, we're not expected to win. You know, no one expects us to really be within 40 points.
Nothing to lose.
Let's give it a good go like they did against Croatia. And, you know, really when you look at this situation, 10 years ago we were losing to college teams from the United States and would have been daunted by playing any NBA players. 10 years down the track, we're looking forward to playing. 10 years into the future, there's no question in my mind we'll be right there playing with these guys.
We can bring Phil Lynch into the conversation now. Phil in Toronto. I have a friend of yours sitting next to me, Phil, one Mr. Bob Turner.
Yes, we've been friends for quite a long time, Alan. In fact, from the day he arrived in Australia, and I'm interested to hear his thoughts on just the way the World Championship is going.
Well, Phil, I think it's been a great tournament, and you look at people like Spain and Brazil, and you know, who are knocked out. They wouldn't be too happy with what's going on, obviously, but overall, I think the championships have been predictable from the top point of view, in that the U.S. and Croatia are right up there. And it was great to see Australia beat Cuba, who was really the key game to get to the finals.
Yes, Bob, speaking of Brazil, the thing that's been really pointed to us in this tournament, and I have the advantage at the moment of watching on another monitor. I'm watching Cuba and Brazil, and at the moment Brazil is trailing Cuba by 4 points, and we're seeing Cuba drop down the international ladder a few notches. Sorry, Brazil drop down the ladder.
Well, of course, the women won the World Championship, so the men would have to duplicate that and wouldn't be too happy playing in 9-16 at all, and knowing that they have to go back home with everybody saying what happened. And so that would take a little bit of enthusiasm away from the team, I'm sure.
Yes, it certainly would. There's a little postcard from Toronto we've got for you, Bob.
Well, Phil, I just wanted to ask you, did you get the robe I sent over?
The robe?
Yeah, I sent you an express mail delivery.
That was a book that was made into a movie, wasn't it?
I think so.
Well, Bob, I'd love to chat to you about the robe, but yes, you can see the game's about to start here, so we'll have to leave you there.
Will do, Phil.
And action underway here in the second half, and a 20-point deficit to the Chinese, but they do get the first possession of the basketball, and they've started without the big man Tao Shan out there, and Yudong Liu, who's come in, he changes things up a little bit for China, Lindsay.
Well, I think the reason they've left Shan out is whilst it can give them size around the basket, he was having trouble in being able to match the Croatians up and down the floor, and I think that they've gone for quickness rather than size.
Well, looking at the lineup that Croatia's got out there, they've got Tony Kukoc out there, and he played 40 minutes against the Australians. I don't know how many minutes he's going to play here. It'll depend on how the next 10 minutes or so goes, you would think, because they'll look to hold some legs. Well, Tony Kukoc has still got plenty of spring in those legs. Take it to the hole and scoring. Hasn't looked to score all that often because we've been looking at his passing game and his passing skills. The Chinese turn the ball over, and Dino Raja brings the ball out of the backcourt and leaves it for Kukoc to handle the ball. Tries to connect on the pass with Sveti Chanan on the inside, but nothing happening there. We're going to have another look at that drive of Tony Kukoc. Just gets his man and offers him the baseline and jams it. So still a 20-point ball game. Teams trading baskets in the early part of the second half, and the Chinese come back with Adiljan in the backcourt.
The other significant thing is that Croatia has left out Vrankovic as well. But they're giving him a spell. He's usually one of those irreplaceable players for their size.
Vrankovic, who did such a terrific job early on the defensive boards and got Raja running down the floor. Now Kukoc on his right, he's got Komasets, but the defensive transition was good. Lob inside, This is Zurich trying to work inside, but Kukoc dumps that pass along the baseline, and the referee has seen that ball go out over the end line and has seen a foul. So he's got the foul on Adiljan. Adiljan now has 3 fouls, so he's going to have some trouble seeing out this half, particularly against the kind of offensive pressure. Putting his head down and bullocking his way to the basket was Ariane Komosets.
Well, China seems to have been adopting the same strategies that they did against Spain in playing most of the first half in the zone defence. They've come out in the man-to-man. The question will be is whether they can pump up their offence as well. In the first half, their offence was fairly sound, but they couldn't handle the defensive assignments against the taller and more talented Croatians.
So third personal foul against Ivica Zurich, who hasn't played a lot of minutes. Adiljan short with the shot. They pin it on the board momentarily, but Kukoc is off and running again. Behind the back pass from Dino Raj with a bounce pass. He's got some skills. Easy 2 at the other end for the Croatians, and it's a 24-point ball game again. Putting on something of a clinic. We saw Shaquille O'Neal in the stands before. Not sure how many of the USA Dream Team is here, or whether the Croatians are aware of them in the stands. But they might want to put on something of a show.
It's looking a little bit ominous for China now with a 24-point margin.
Kukoc dumping outside the 3-point line.
At 27.
Sveti Chanin hitting the 3. And away they go again with a loss of the ball. Kukoc on the left. Dunk. So 2 dunks from Tony Kukoc, who didn't really get into the scoring in the first half. And he takes his way to 11 points. Played the entire first half, only scored 7, but put together 11 assists. In the corner they go to that man who had the hot hand, Wee Dong Ho, but all they can do is turn the ball over. China have come up with 3 turnovers already in the second half. Now it's run down for Adiljan. China's got numbers up the floor, and Sun at the other end scores the 2. I don't think the Croatians will be too concerned about that, especially sitting with a 27-point lead.
I'm just wondering how long China will stay with this combination. This game is looking more and more like the game that China played against the United States. They try to stay competitive. They blow out a lead beyond 20 points, then they go to their bench, give everyone a chance of playing, getting some experience in this, against this superior competition.
Sun with the rebound. They're off and running again, but Adiljan takes it in amongst the big boys and dumping outside. Yes, they might end up putting the cue back in the rack and think about their next couple of games. This was a game they probably felt they didn't have a chance to win anyway, but the next 2 against Greece and Canada, they would give themselves a chance. Offensive foul call. That's an interesting call. I'd get a chance to have a look at it. No, we're going to see that steal again. But that was an interesting call, that one where Kukoc held his ground, the player jumped into him, and the offensive foul was called. But the first time out of the second half, and we got a 27-point ball game.
I think the Japanese referee was showing no compassion on that one. The Chinese player was trying to get a shot away. He shot the ball and then pushed Kukoc out of the way almost in desperation because he couldn't see anything. And the Japanese referee ruled that that was a foul. It probably was in a technical sense. I'll say he lacked compassion there and letting him get away with it.
The rebound situation, 19 to 10 as you'd expect in favour of Croatia. But 16 assists against 6. 11 of those 16 assists have come from the hands of Tony Kukoc. So we talked about triple doubles the other day, Lindsay. His rebound count isn't very high. He's only grabbed 3 rebounds, but he has 11 points and 11 assists. If he can grab double figures in rebounds, there's Shaquille O'Neal again. And he's the only one of the Americans we're seeing, so perhaps he's the only one here.
Well, I think in regard to Kukoc, that rebound count is remarkably low for him. I think he's been averaging about 8 rebounds a game. And that's another asset that he has. Not only is he great in his offense with his passing and scoring ability, he usually matches up against opposition star players and then gets more than his share of rebounds as well. So it's no wonder the Chicago Bulls are keen. Well, I'm not too sure if he's worth 26 million, but that's the way it's going in the NBA these days.
And that's 26 million US, which I understand works out at around about the 35 mil mark. I haven't caught up with today's exchange rate, but 35 million Australian. You could live on that, couldn't you?
Get by on that for a while, at least.
Yeah.
At least over the 5-year contract period.
Yeah. Well, the game underway again. And Kukoc with the ball handling duties. It's the only 6'10" guard I've seen. Well, one who brings the ball up the floor anyway.
Well, the former Yugoslavia used to have one, Kresimir Kocic. He started the trend of the 6'10" guards, and he was a great one of the 60s, and maybe one of the best of all time. And he changed the pattern of the guards for the Yugoslavian teams of those years. Kresimir Kocic, who played Brigham Young for some part of his career, and then was one of the finest in international competition for a decade.
Kukoc is fouled on the way to the hoop. Lindsay, just as the Croatians were bringing the ball up the floor there, the Croatian people in the crowd here will watch this replay again, this drive from Kukoc, and understand the kind of difficulties that the Chinese face. He's had 2 players into the air, stopped and popped, couldn't hit the shot. But the chant I'm hearing from the crowd here said, I'm sure they're saying boring. Maybe I'm listening to it wrongly. Maybe when they walk the ball up the floor.
Well, perhaps that's the case, but maybe I think it might be getting lost in the translation. If they find this boring, I don't think they understand the intricacies of international competition.
Well, keep an ear out for it, and we'll find out what it is. Liu Yudong hits the 2, so 2 more points for the Chinese. And that's the sort of game that he plays. He's in there for Tao Shan, and he takes the ball away from the hoop. He's got some size about him. He's around about the 6'7" mark in the old money. Kukoc dumps off there to Raja. Off Raja's hand. Raja appealing that it came off the hands of Naikeen Wo, but the referee saw it the other way. Starting to beat some drums in the crowd now and get some noise going. Remember, after this game, Greece plays Canada, and the Greeks have come out and supported their team pretty well, and playing against the home team, Canada, who interestingly enough have been a lot of complaints in the newspapers here in Toronto that there hasn't been enough support for the Canadian team. All the Croatian Canadians have come out and support their former home country, and as have the Greeks. Not time to get that shot off. Got it off way too late. Took 30 seconds off the clock, and a little bit of a knitted brow there from the coach. I'm sure he likes them to use plenty of clock, but he'd like them to score on the end of it as well. So let's see what Croatia has to offer this time. Down the middle, another assist to Kukoc, and 2 points that time to Danko Sveticana.
China have abandoned their man-to-man defense again, and at last they found the range of their offense, but their offense has been cold since half-time.
That one coming from Sun. We haven't seen the high scorer of the first half, Wee Dong Ho, but we'll see him a little later, I'm sure. He'll fire up some more, and a tip-in. That might have even come off Chinese hands.
No, I think that was Brankovic.
You got Brankovic for that one?
Coming out there and just gently tapped it back without any effort.
Okay, we'll give 2 to Stoyan Brankovic. Haven't seen any of Josip Brankovic, who started against the Australians and dogged Andrew Gaze all over the court, but indication of the sort of talent they've got down the bench. They can use different players, and I'm sure we'll see Josip Brankovic when we get down to the medal round. Dump on the outside, quick shift into the corner. Here's the guy we're talking about. Wee Dong Ho hits one from outside the 3-point circle. Hit a heap of those in the first half. He's now 7 of 9. Remember, he had 6 of 8 of those in the first half of this contest. 25-point ball game. China in the zone. Tao Shan again occupying the middle of it. Nothing for Svetichanin, and a foul, a reach-in foul, I think, against Sun. Put his hands on his hips and a quizzical look at the referee, and there's one of the Croatian flags, but not nearly as many here at Maple Leaf Gardens that we might have expected. Those that are here are making plenty of noise. There's the tip in. That came off the hands, I think, of Raja. No basket, the referee says. He's called that an offensive goal, Tim?
Yeah, no, they'd be very upset about that in the National League, in that presently the international rules prohibit the alley-oop pass. And what he was saying there, that the ball was above the basket on the pass, and tip it in Australia that the alley-oop pass is legal, and throughout the rest of the world after this tournament it will be legal, as the rules that have been designated by FIBA are going to change.
Here's our man again, and he's right on target again. Wee Dong Ho hits another three.
But for the time being, the alley-oop pass is not legal. Not in this competition anyway.
28 points to Wee Dong Ho, leading all scorers. Dino Raja has 23 for Croatia. And Brankovic, well, that's close again.
Well, he picked it up from just below the level of the ring and then tucked it over the top.
They're really testing out the referee from Italy. It was his call again. He was on the trail. It was his chance to see it, but he said that one was legal. And I think there was a bit of cheek in that one, Lindsay.
Tried to make a point, I think.
Call this one. Adeljan. Slowing things up. They get their clock under 10 seconds to go again. And he made a miss. So Wee Dong Ho shows that he can miss. Almost a steal from Ho again. Three-point shot that comes here from Aryan Komasets. Komasets hit some good threes against the Australian. And I'm looking forward to seeing him play against Team USA. I'm looking forward to seeing this team in the medal round, just to see which players they go to. Tao Shan looking to try and bank it. Brankovic not taking it too seriously, though. Down the middle, and a reject from Brankovic. That was Wee Dong Ho, the three-point shooter. And Brankovic got that out of here in a hurry. So timeout once again. 83 plays, 56, a 27-point ball game now, and 10.5 minutes to go in it. So the Croatians doing it very, very easily.
Well, the Croatians, I think, are just pacing themselves through this, that they've opened up an unbeatable lead at this stage. China, I think that they've also waved the white flag as well, although they are making a valiant effort to try and match the scoring of the Croatians. But they've really only had one reliable scorer, and that's Ho, who's been quite remarkable in his consistency from the perimeter. But the last couple of plays down the floor, I sense that condition is starting to be a factor with him, showing the signs of being just a little bit fatigued. And I doubt that he will stay in the game too much longer, as China will go to their bench, give other players some experience, and look ahead to the more important games that they face over the next couple of days in a chance to perhaps finish second in this group. Croatia will, I think, be automatic in this group to be number one. The second team of this group goes to the medal round, and China may still be in for a surprise against Greece or Canada. Now, either of those two games would be an upset for China to win. However, they've already shown that they can and have upset equally internationally reputed teams like Spain and Brazil. So this game now, I think, is no longer a contest for China, and they probably will be thinking of the games ahead from now on.
Replay of the Kukoc-Svetichanin pass. But Lindsay, looking at the players come back onto the floor as we just watched this replay there, they've still got Raja, Kukoc out there for Croatia. Really, there's no great need for them to be there on the floor at this stage of the game. I'm just wondering what the thinking of the coach might be in keeping them out there.
Yes, well, I think that we've got an expression in our team at home where we say, never give a sucker an even break. Now, whilst there is, I consider to be an impossible margin here, that these games are so deadly serious, you don't make any changes that might go to the bench and give any opportunity whatsoever for the opposition to catch up. We've won games from 20 points down in the last 9 minutes in National League competition. There is some possibility that it could happen here, but it would have to be extraordinary. But I think you can be assured that Croatia won't give any chance before they go to the bench. It's just too important.
Underneath they go to Brankovic with a hook shot that falls out. Adeljan it is who cleans up the rebound. We just, last time down the floor for China, we saw them turn the ball over on a 30-second count for the 3rd time in the ball game. That's how much they're trying to run the clock down. 3 times they've run themselves out of time in trying to take a shot. Shan working things at the high post. 3-point shot goes up there from Sun. Nothing for him, but tipped down by Brankovic, who tried to tip to a teammate, only tipped it into the hands of Yu Dong Liu. Very controlled tip from Brankovic.
Well, his rover was out of position. That's for our Australian rules fans.
Adeljan off and running, gets it out to his right and pulling it up and trying to make the score. Wee Dong Ho with one of his rare misses. I think he was too close. I think it was inside the 3-point line, actually, when he took that shot. But I look at our statistician have said it was a 3-pointer, so he's now 8 from 12. Very deliberate once again, the Croatians. Josip Brankovic, who I mentioned earlier, hadn't played, out there and makes a 3-pointer. No relationship between Josip Brankovic and Stojan Jankovic. That's Brankovic. Wee Dong Ho doing some ball handling this time and giving Adeljan a rest on the left wing. Now it's Adeljan to look for penetrate and draws the foul out of Josip Brankovic.
A little bit of suspect footwork there to start the drive, but once again the Japanese referee was allowing a little bit more than normal. 16
fouls now against China, 3 against Croatia. And we got a little bit of a step on the takeoff there. And the Chinese turn the ball over once again. So what won't please the Chinese coaches, the number of times they have come down the floor without getting a shot off. That is now their 16th turnover in the game, and once you get up around the 20 turnover mark, you've made way too many. Josip Brankovic in the corner. Through some sets of hands, Kukoc on the inside. Nothing that time from the wing, but they do get a second opportunity and run down here by Ivica Zuric. Kukoc is fouled that time. So we've got a foul. The foul goes against Zheng Wo. And timeout here. Now, I talked earlier, Lindsay, about the amount of time that people like Tony Kukoc is playing. We've seen the rest for Dino Raja, but Brankovic is out there. I'm wondering in particular about Kukoc and Raja. We noticed with the American team, we figured that they weren't in great shape because they're out of season. A similar thing would apply to Kukoc and Raja, and is the coach looking to run them into shape?
Oh, I don't think it's a matter of condition. I think it's more a matter of a combination. You see that these teams have only been together for a short period of time as well, and they've got to get a feel for each other, and they work together, and the longer they play together, the more they do things instinctively. And I mean, I think that Kukoc and Raja can stay away from each other for 2 years and still come and combine well because of all of the time that they've spent together. But it's really a balance of the whole combination as they're trying to fit them in. And so I don't think it's a matter of condition. I think it's really more the question of team combinations. But this is not a physically demanding game for the Croatians. They're pacing themselves up and down the floor. Every now and then they'll work an athletic transition. But other times you can see the whole 5 players are just strolling down the floor together as they take their time, set up the half-court game, and go to work on the Chinese with their size and precision.
The other important thing, we spoke about it today at the Australian practice. The Croatians there really enjoying the Phoenix Suns guerrilla show. But speaking to some of the Australians, and particularly to Barry Barnes, he was saying under this situation they've got in this tournament with 4 timeouts in a half, the players just aren't getting tired.
That's right. So endurance has not been so much a factor in this tournament, because you can have 9 television timeouts plus the timeouts that you have by the coach that's called. And so with that much rest in the game, and it's only a 40-minute game, and most of these players are now playing 48-minute games in their regular league competitions, condition or fatigue has not been a factor.
Well, Kukoc is still out there, and they turn the ball over in the backcourt, but the man who turned the ball over gets it back again, and that is Arjan Komosec, and finishes up with a score at the other end to Josip Brankovic. So a bit of a comedy of errors that time, but the upshot of it is that we've got a 30-point lead. 88 playing 58. China, who were a surprise to be in this part of the competition. Komosec again with a steal and a dunk. Rubs some salt into the wounds. China, they're in unknown territory in this part of the competition. This fellow knows his territory, though. Wee Dong Ho, that is his 9th three-pointer of the game. Amazing shooting exhibition. So 29-point game. And Croatia looking for another way to score. Brankovic it is this time. Almost contemptuously there, and stuck the ball in between backboard and rim. Now, you don't often see that. You see the ball sometimes stick there when it comes from a long shot at the basket. There's Josip Brankovic making his last basket. But here's the way was it Komosec takes it to the hoop for a score.
And that's not a bad play for the so-called little guard.
No.
Interception, then take it down for a windmill dunk.
There's Sun Jun, who's done his job with handing off the ball. Takes a seat at the bench, but Stojan Brankovic can't hit from the free throw line. Makes 1 of 2. 91 plays 61. Croatia shooting at 75% for the game, and China at 51%. 50% from outside the three-point circle, the team in red. Drive to the basket, and under some intimidation from Brankovic, that's Stojan onto the hands of Josip Brankovic. Down the middle he goes, and 2 points off the left-handed lay-in. He was fouled as well. He could make a 3-point play. We'll have a look at the block at the other end. Just got a little piece of this one. Blocked it against the board. Got the fast break going. So Stojan Brankovic, that was partially blocked, but he had good hands, Josip Brankovic. Takes it to the hoop and scored. The lefty makes a 3-point play. So the further this game goes, the further that Croatian lead goes out. 33 points right now.
You have to admire the Croatians in the way that they've played through this tournament. You mentioned there before that the percentages is 75% in this game. First game they played against Korea, they shot 80%. 75% here. Australia was able to restrict their percentages down to around about the 50-55 mark, I think it was. And considering the level of competition here, when you're shooting 75 to 80% for a game, it's no wonder they're up there ranked amongst the best in the world.
Indication of what they're like inside. That last basket we saw from China came from Tao Shan, the big man. It was his first basket of the game. We'll have a look at it. Adiljan with the presentation. Off to Tao Shan, up against 2 players. He had to beat Brankovic. It was a good move, but that's the first time he's been able to do that in the game, and now he's been taken out.
Well, this might be a substitute by the clock rather than by tactics. It's time to get someone else in the game just to get this experience.
Tao Shan went across and in Chinese tradition stood right on the sideline and bowed to the crowd. Out he went.
That's his gesture of saying farewell.
Ivica Zuric. So we won't see Tao Shan again by that gesture. And Zuric makes one off the free throw line. Out of the ball game, Tao Shan with 5. Min Chang Ji in the game, and we haven't seen a lot of him, but he has got some range. And, well, Shaquille O'Neal liked it. I'm sure Min Chang Ji liked it as well. Kukoc in the dump off, and nothing there for Komasets, giving the ball up and the drive to the basket, but it's Josip Brankovic, Stoyan Brankovic, the Brankovic show, one end to the other. And the big Croatian crowd here loves it. They seem to be more coming in towards the end of the game, and there's quite a few Croatian flags starting to wave in the audience right now. Away they go again with the run. Kukoc hands it off. Komasets was fouled. And you reckon there was an extra step in there, Lindsay?
Absolutely. But it's not going to be called in this game.
Well, they've been fairly consistent with that. Another Chinese player fouls out. Out of the game goes just trying to catch it up. It's the man who scored all the points. Wee Dong Ho fouls out with 31 points.
Well, he's had a great game. That when you consider he can look back on this one playing against the team that'll be vying for the gold medal here at the World Championships and getting 31 points against this level of competition, that's something you can be proud of.
Well, you saw Tony Kukoc go to the bench as well. Kukoc doesn't have as many points. He had 13, but he's taken 15 assists to the bench. And there's the difference, 58 to 16 on points in the paint. Those who are new to the game, they're the points that are scored close to the basket. Looking to find someone close to the basket there, China, and fairly futile attempt. But that's a good shot for Yudong Liu. That's his range. He loves to spot it up around about the 17 feet mark.
When you talk about in the paint on this court here, that's anywhere inside the three-point line, isn't it, the way that this court is designed? And for the Croatians, I think that'll be right. Anything inside the paint is automatic for them.
99-67. Timeout here at the Maple Leaf Gardens, the home of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and Tony Kukoc with a bit of a smile for the camera. I guess when you played in the NBA for a couple of years, Kukoc knows where all the cameras are.
Well, I suppose so. I'm not too sure if that's high on his priority right now. I think that he's fairly comfortable in the way that this game has gone, and I'm sure the team is preparing well as they look ahead to the middle round. The games that they'll play beyond tonight will be a little bit more competitive, but all of the signals are that they're putting their game together very effectively. They're very efficient. They're tough defensively, as they showed against the Australians. They haven't been tested as vigorously as against the Chinese tonight, but they are looking better as the tournament goes ahead, and that's not surprising.
But you can see the Chinese coach, the bad Blue Boys. I'm not too familiar with the bad Blue Boys, but we might see something a little later on that might indicate just who they are. Plenty of Croatian support out here, and I mentioned at the start of the game that there were very few of them here. The Maple Leaf Gardens is still only about probably half full. Maybe that's being a bit generous, 33% full, but it's full of Croatians. And the scene in the streets outside here the other night, particularly when they beat Australia, there were police everywhere. There were traffic lights turned off because they just flooded the streets outside of the stadium. And if that's an indication of what we're going to see towards the end of the competition, I'd like to see what will happen if they win this thing, Lindsay.
Well, I think you can see the reaction of the fans here. It's almost like the scenes that you see at the World Cup soccer playoffs, where the fans take their support into the streets as well.
Pretty good trio on the bench there with Raja, Brankovic and Kukoc all taking a rest at the moment. this takes something away from the size of the Croatian team, and the Chinese have come back in a zone and asked this team to shoot from the outside. Might see what they can do in a moment. But we're getting down into the second level of the Croatian team right here. I saw a three-point shot go up there. It wasn't a close one at all, and they ran the clock right down and were forced into that. So we might get an idea of what the bench is like. Komaset's out there with Josip Brankovic. They've seen plenty. Sveti Chanin out there, number 8, playing defense at the moment. He's seen plenty of court time over plenty of years as well. Jin Song Jong out there, number 12 for China, and the shooter, that is Yudong Liu, who's stuck about 3 from that exact spot. A little behind the back there from Josip Brankovic. He'll go to the free throw line. I saw you try one of those at practice today with the Australians, Lindsay, and you lost a little technique on that one.
A little bit out of practice, and I didn't want to show up my opponent on that one either. Didn't want to embarrass him.
But Josip Brankovic at the free throw line. His team with a 30-point lead and 2.5 minutes to go. I thought with the score early in the first half that we might be heading for about 120 or 130-point game here. Got 2.5 minutes, and Croatia still looking for their 100th point. It's going to come fairly short, though, on the next basket. It comes right now. It's come from Divor Pejinovic, who's been sitting on the bench a long time, sat right through the last game. Sveti Chanin keeps the defense up and takes it to the hoop at the other end. In fact, that's Alanovic, I must say. Alanovic, the starting guard, coming in and makes it 103-69. So no points that time for the little man Liu, and a block on the shot, and Alanovic using his experience there to throw that ball off the leg of the Chinese player with a bit of a smile for his teammate Josip Brankovic in the backcourt. Inside they go. Oh, behind the back play was probably a little bit too fancy, and a block by the Chinese, their first block of the ball game, I think. And things getting a little bit loose out there now, Lindsay.
Oh, I think Ivica Zuric has taken over from Tony Kukoc's role of trying to find the snappy passes and make the assist plays there. The pass he made before was very much like Kukoc. That one, I think, had the right intention, but just a little bit off in the execution.
Well, Jin Song Jong for China, number 12, who had just a couple of minutes in the game, has been taken out straight away. As Zheng Wo comes back. Zheng Wo, who plays in the backcourt for China, he's over on the right wing at the moment. But the shot goes up there, and it's a sweet shot from Yudong Liu. And Liu works his way to 10 points. But the Croatians have no trouble in replying at all. 34-point ball game. Off the baseline, there's another score. And that one comes from Dai-Ching Liu. He's another who doesn't see very much court time in this team, but it's what we perhaps call skins time, and a turnover of the basketball from Croatia. So the last 2 times down the floor, they've only succeeded in turning it over. There's Jin Song Jong on his screen, Lindsay. He just went out of the game 30 seconds ago, and he's back in again. Well,
I can't work that out. It's too complicated for me. I think the rotation for the Chinese coach has always been baffling throughout the tournament so far. Well, I can't be critical of this, that they're playing on the top 8. It's something they've never ever done before.
There's a holding foul, and in fact it was Divor Pejinovic who appealed to the referee and said he hooked me, but the referee has seen it the other way. The Croatian crowd here at the Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto is starting to find full voice now and sing their players home. 40 seconds left in the game, their team leading by 32 points, and the singing goes up. Turnovers by both teams, and that's the sort of game you get at this end. Even though the players are probably great players in their own country, they come and play at this level, and they come in and play like skins. Shifting the ball on the perimeter against this 2-1-2 zone now that China's got set up. Taking time off the clock. Now they got inside the paint and called for a travel. The travel being called against Ivica Zuric, So 14 seconds left now for China to rack up their last score of the game. Yu Dong-yu turns the ball over. Over the head it goes, and another turnover at the other end. No, they've kept it alive. Underneath the basket, Josip can't score. Stick it in. That point will not score. That will not count. The clock beat it. And there's a bit of Canada and Croatia further. The Croatians leave. The crowd is singing here at Maple Leaf Gardens as the teams congratulate each other. Lindsay, Shaquille O'Neal has seen the Croatians win by 32. Has he seen a team that will challenge them?
Well, I don't think he's seen anything here that would cause him to lose any sleep between the next few nights and when they're due to play them. But I think if he becomes complacent, that would be a mistake. This was very much a regulation game for Croatia. They paced themselves through it. It wasn't physically demanding. It was just... well, with respect to China, it was really just like a training run for them, that they were able to pick them off. They were overwhelming with their own offense, and China was not able to match them with their scoring and didn't have any answers at all in trying to find a way of defending Croatia. They tried a zone, they tried a trap early in the first half, and all of those things were unsuccessful. They just simply overpowered, and for Croatia, they just paced themselves through it, a nice little exercise for them.
So... we wind off the clock in the first game of the playoffs, 105-73.
Phil Lynch, thank you, and Lindsay Gay is our commentators in Canada. Our guest in our Sydney studios, coach of the Sydney Kings, Bob Turner. Bob, your thoughts on the game?
Well, I think after halftime it was really a foregone conclusion. In the end, Croatia shot 75% from the field, and they said a game earlier that they shot 81%, but when you're shooting point blank most of the night, you're going to win a lot of games. And Kukoc should ease back a little bit after the first 5 or 6 minutes, and I think the game was gone, and China knew it and Croatia knew it, and they just finished out.
Do you echo Lindsay Gay's sentiments about Shaquille O'Neal not losing too much sleep over what he saw as far as Croatia went?
Well, I think the Americans are typical. I mean, they're cocky enough to say they're going to beat whoever comes up against them. But Croatia is the one team that has the size, the power, and some scoring ability and some outside-inside attack that can really take it right up to them. And as I said earlier, I think the game internationally has now reached a different level where the Americans used to dominate. They put the pro players in to try and, you know, catch up or make sure that they stayed ahead of everybody else. And that's fine for a few years, but a couple of years down the track, you'll find that the Croatians, the Russians, the Australians will start to say, well, yeah, you're good, but we can play with you.
And China shouldn't be taking too much disheart from that loss?
Well, I think as Lindsay said, China's happy to be in the top 8. It's the first time ever, and they got here by beating Brazil and Spain in both very tight games, we said earlier, but you know, they got there, and so they'd be happy just to start to feel the excitement of a top 8 situation. And I think now it's going to be the next game, Canada and Greece will be the game to decide, I think, who's the second team in that division.
And Bob will be back with us for that game this morning at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. And as he told you, it should be a beauty. Greece and Canada live around Australia at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. 105-73 then Croatia over China in our first quarter-final in a Group 2 match. We'll be back with you at 11 o'clock, which is in about 33 minutes' time. And I don't think we have Cuba 54. Cuba-Brazil score just coming through in my earphones at the 54-53, so Bob, that was a very in progress score, so it's not over yet. Cuba over Brazil, 54-53. We'll have more on that. That's a progress, yep. And 105-73 on your screen, Croatia and China. So until we see you in just over half an hour at 11 o'clock Eastern Time, Alan Gaskell wishing you good morning.